It's lovely to be here. Let me say that just to start. Kessia and I arrived here yesterday. Kessia is my fiance. We're getting married in 3 weeks in Jerusalem. So it's really a nice opportunity to kind of leave the hectic preparations for our wedding in Jerusalem and have a bit of time off in the midst of everything and breathe some beautiful clean air and mountain air in Zurich. So thank you very much for hosting us, and we look forward to being here over the weekend, over Shabbat. I was here in Wollishofen probably sometime between 15 and 20 years ago. I don't remember exactly. Noam, do you remember when I was?
It was more like 15.
More like 15. I was definitely here, but it's been a while, so it's great to be back, and thank you very much for hosting us. The first version of this shiur was given probably 2 weeks after the war started on October 7th, 2023. I was teaching a shiur, a course actually, in Sefer Shmuel, in the book of Shmuel, to students from the United States studying in Jerusalem for the year. And it was a very scary time. It was a very scary, uncertain, lonely time, just as the ground operation, the war itself, was beginning in Gaza. And I don't know if this ever happened to you, where you're sort of reading something, engaged in something, a book, and suddenly you feel like what you're reading corresponds to the reality outside, that you feel almost as if God is speaking to you directly at that moment. So that's how I felt when I was preparing this shiur for my students at Pardes. And I actually got goosebumps when I was preparing this shiur, reading the text of the Tanakh, because I felt like it was so relevant to what we were experiencing in Israel. And that's really all I want to do tonight, is to give you that same sensation of goosebumps and feeling like sometimes the experience the Jews or Bnei Israel experienced thousands of years ago is similar to things that we still experience. And some of the problems and the crises that they had existed many, many years ago. And there's something comforting in that, I think, that you know that this isn't the first time that people are going through what you feel like you're going through. And that's all. I mean, most of what we're going to be reading here is pshat. In other words, it's the text of the Tanakh. We will use one commentator throughout this source sheet, who I think is very interesting, called the Malbim, Meir Leibush ben Yechiel Michel Visser, who was a Ukrainian Parshan of the Tanakh from the 19th century. I think he has very interesting psychological insights. But for the most part, we're going to just be reading the text and talking about the text itself. That's all. And I think the text speaks for itself. It doesn't need so much commentary. But we're going to read this like we read a play, let's say, of Shakespeare. A tragedy, maybe, unfortunately. But like literature, because I think this is, of course, it's inspired by God, and it's our holy book, and it's the Tanakh, but it's also fantastic literature, in addition to being our holy book. So let's start, and maybe I'll ask people to help and read parts of it at least. And I'll interrupt you and stop to throw in some commentary and thoughts and context, maybe. So let's think of this like a play in a few acts, okay? Act 1, screen goes up, and the reality is that we're immediately thrust into a tragic situation. So who wants to read source number 1? Go ahead, yeah.
In English.
I think for most people, English will be better. If those of you who want to follow in Hebrew, if it's easier, you can follow along in the Hebrew. But please, yeah.
And Samuel's word went forth to all Israel. Israel marched out to engage the Philistines in battle. They encamped near Ebenezer, while the Philistines encamped at Aphek.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to stop you already.
Okay.
Where are these places geographically located in Israel?
Gaza.
Where is Aphek and Ebenezer? Not Gaza, no. I mean, not so far, but not really. Aphek, Tel Aphek, it's near Rosh Ha'ain. It's near where the airport is actually today. Kind of very central Israel. So there's two kind of camps, right? The camp of the Israelites and the camp of the Philistines. Now they mention Shmuel here at the beginning, right? Now Shmuel is the prophet who's just chosen, and we just got to know him 2 chapters ago. This is chapter 4, and that's what we're going to be reading, just one chapter today. So Shmuel was just initiated into prophecy a chapter or 2 ago, and he's not going to be mentioned anymore for about 3 or 4 chapters now. His name is dropped in the first verse, and that's it. He disappears. Okay? Which is, I think, significant. But just to point that out, we don't hear of him anymore. All right, let's keep going.
The Philistines arrayed themselves against Israel, and when the battle was fought, Israel was routed by the Philistines, who slew about 4,000 men on the field of battle. When the Israelite troops returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did God put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of God from Shiloh. Thus God will be present among us and will deliver us from the hands of our enemies."
Thank you. Okay, great reading. Thank you. I like the dramatic tone because it is a dramatic text, right? So right off the bat, right at the beginning of this battle, the Israelites suffer a terrible loss. Right at the beginning, right? 4,000 soldiers of the Israelites are killed initially, right at the beginning of this battle with the Philistines, right? And I mean, this is generations, or at least, many years after the conquest of the land by Joshua, right? But clearly, the battles are not over. They're still ongoing. The Philistines are still a presence in the land, and there's still all of these wars happening after the judges. It's still going on. What do the elders ask? It's sort of like a rhetorical question almost. Well, I mean,
why do we lose?
Why did we lose? Why did we lose this first battle, right? Do they answer that question?
They have to make a Vadat Hakira.
Maybe a commission of inquiry. Well, do they answer the question for themselves? No. Right? That's very noteworthy. They don't answer their own question, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do they do instead?
They want to get the Aron Kodesh, they want the
Right.
ark.
They go immediately to the solution.
Yeah.
To a problem that they didn't even answer for themselves yet, right? Why did we lose? Why were we defeated so terribly? They don't answer that question. They immediately go and jump to the solution, right? Which is what?
Bring the ark.
The
and
ark.
Automatically win. Or something.
Right, okay.
They think so.
We'll
Something-
have God on our side,
Okay, good.
visibly.
So how do they relate to the ark based on this verse, at least?
It's just a symbol.
It's just a symbol.
Well, with magical power.
Wait a sec. Huh?
To be used.
Why do you think it's a symbol?
That's what they want. Bring a symbol and we see God and we win.
I don't see the word symbol here.
No, symbols are good.
Yeah, it's
Thus
more like-
God will be present among us, right? Well, how does the Hebrew go?
Well, the fact that God is not really in the ark
Who said he's not in the ark?
That's what they
should
think,
be
yeah.
obvious if they read their Torah.
Well, maybe they didn't read Rambam yet. Maybe Rambam didn't exist yet at the time of Shmuel, and they're not.
They could have asked Shmuel. Why didn't they ask
Well,
Shmuel?
okay, that's a
What
good.
should we do?
Yeah. So
He's the
they don't,
boss.
right? So they don't ask. But I think we're so post-Maimonidean already in our thinking. I think, right, that we immediately go symbol. God is an abstraction. God doesn't really exist in the physical space. No, they say in Hebrew, "V'yavo bekirbeinu v'yoshi'enu." Right? God should come in our midst and save us. God is not with us. So what do we need to do? We need to bring God to our midst. We need to drag almost God, right? Physically bring God to our midst so that He can save us. So what's the implicit answer to their question, why did we lose the first battle?
Because God was not here.
God wasn't here, and we need to bring Him right? To be in our midst so he can save us. That's the implicit, right? I think answer. Yeah, Guido.
Wasn't it not normal, like in Sefer Melachim, that to bring the Aron?
Okay, we'll come to that question. Is it normal in battle? I don't know if Melachim, but there is a precedent. We'll talk about that. To bring the ark to battle. We'll talk soon about where the precedent might have been. You're right, there is a precedent to that. Okay, these are just questions we're raising for now. I'm just reading the text and we're raising questions, okay? Let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So the troops sent a message to Shiloh. Their Eli's two sons, Chofni and Pinchas, were in charge of the Ark of the Covenant of God.
Okay, I just want to say a few words. Eli and his two sons, Chofni and Pinchas. And those names will reappear, unlike Shmuel. We have an aging priest, the high priest Eli, who serves in Shiloh. He's an aging man with bad eyesight, poor eyesight. And he has two sons who we know already from previous chapters are his heirs. They serve in the temple, but they're not good people. They take advantage of the women that come to the temple. They take portions of the sacrifices that don't belong to them. So we already know that there's a problem with the family of Eli from previous chapters, okay? But since these people are the guardians of the Mishkan, of the Ark, they are the ones responsible for bringing the Ark with them, right? So they go into battle, right? And they take the Ark with them.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep reading.
So there, Eli's two sons, Chofni and Pinchas, were in charge of the Ark of the Covenant of God. And they brought down from there the Ark of the Covenant of God of hosts, enthroned on the cherubim. When the Ark of the Covenant of God entered the camp, all Israel burst into a great shout so that the earth resounded.
Okay, let's stop again. What sticks out to you in this verse? Like in terms of words, again, we're reading this a little bit like literature. Is there any kind of like atmosphere or something literary that kind of stands out to you?
By spelling out, saying the Ark of the Covenant of God of Hosts, I mean, they really want to make a point.
Great, fantastic. That's kind of what I wrote at the question at the bottom. Does any description strike you as unusual? I don't think there's anywhere else in the Tanakh, I'm not sure, that the Aron, the Ark, is compounded or described with so many adjectives. Let's read it in Hebrew for a second. Aron Adonai Tzvaot Yoshev HaKrovim. It's the Aron of God, Adonai, Tzevaot, right, the warrior God. Yoshev HaKrovim, right, the cherubs, or the Krovim, the Keruvim, right, these two figures, maybe angelic figures with wings, not clear if they're humans or animals that have wings that lean towards each other, with maybe perhaps God somehow sitting in the middle of those wings. Yoshev HaKrovim, he's sitting, right? So we have all of these, it's the warrior God, Hashem Tzevaot, so many adjectives on this one ark, which maybe means so many expectations, right, are placed on this ark. So much, expectation from what this ark might do. And we see this expectation when we see the reaction of the people when the ark comes, right? Now there's a lot of kind of descriptions of senses that will come in now. Sound, sight. So now we hear like noise, right? We hear like a cheering that's so loud that the land shakes, the earth shakes. Vatehom haaretz, right? Tru'ah. And now something amazing happens, which I think is not that, which is pretty unique, I think, to the Tanakh and what really makes our book. The camera moves, if you can imagine, like it's as if this is a film. The camera shifts from the camp of the Israelites to the camp of the Philistines. So sort of from, you could say, this text was meant for Jewish readers, right? For us, for Bnei Israel, right? And it's, I think, pretty clear for the readers who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, right? Because this is meant for us. This is our book, right? But the camera will now shift from our camp to the camp of the enemies. And it will give us an insight, just like a film, right, into what they're thinking or what they're feeling. And I think it will give us an insight into their psychology in an interesting way. Let's keep reading.
The Philistines heard the noise of the shouting and they wondered, why is there such a loud shouting in the camp of the Hebrews? And when they learned that the ark of God had come to the camp, the Philistines were frightened, for they said, God has come to the camp. And they cried, woe to us! Nothing like this has ever happened before. Woe to us! Who will save us from the power of this mighty God, the same God who struck the Egyptians with every kind of plague in the wilderness?
Wow, okay. So what do the Philistines know about us or about our God? What knowledge do they have of us?
Power of God.
He took us out of Egypt.
Yeah, so they have some knowledge of the history, right? They know about Yetziat Mitzrayim. These are the same gods, Elohim, right, who struck the Egyptians with the plagues in the desert. Lo hayta kazot tol shilshom. Nothing like this ever happened before. Okay, so the kind of shock and awe, maybe, right? Maybe the purpose is starting to become clear. We're bringing the ark in to the battlefield to shock them into somehow reacting. Now, let me do something a technique that sometimes we use when we teach Tanakh, which is called bibliodrama. It doesn't include acting. It's just you need to put yourself in the shoes of a character in the story. It's a great technique to teach Tanakh. So now I invite you to think of yourselves as the commanders of the Philistine army. Okay? So far, what's happened? You had a battle, you killed 4,000 Israelites. And now the ark is there, you're scared. You know the history, what happened to the Egyptians. It's happening now in the parasha, right? We're reading these Shabbatot, it's exactly that story. What do you advise your army to do?
Well, first of all, it means that the Philistines believe that God is in the ark.
Clearly, right? It says, Ba'aron Elohim, Ba'aron Adonai Lamachaneh. The God of the Aaron has come. But it seems like they think that. What would you do?
But the book was written for us.
Yeah, I think so.
By us.
Yeah.
So it's not for sure, it's not clear that the Philistines knew about Egypt and that they were so scared. Maybe we just wrote it because it looks good for us.
Okay. So this is us imagining, let's say, or the author of this book imagining what the Philistines thought. Because he wasn't physically there, right? He is describing a sense that he believes the Philistines had. But I ask again, go into the part. Be the general of the Philistines up until now with the knowledge you have so far. What do you do? What do you advise your people to do? It's a strategic or tactical decision.
You retreat.
Yeah, you can either run away. You can either run away or get hold of your gods.
Okay, those are two options. What would you advise? You can only do one. General, what do you do?
Run away.
Why?
Retreat. Make a tactical retreat, and because your men are too scared to fight properly.
Yeah.
Because what's happened with the Israelites is that although they should have all been very upset and very demoralized,
Right.
And unable to fight, now they've got their mojo back. And therefore, now
they're motivated.
Yeah, now they're motivated. And now the Philistines are getting scared. And you don't want to send your soldiers against...
Wait, don't speak in the third person, speak in the first person.
I don't want my soldiers to be up against these guys who think that they've got the master of the world on their side.
Yeah, my people are scared, the
They're
Philistines are scared.
So we're not going to win, so we need to retreat
Yeah.
and gather our forces and gather our strength and come at this a different way.
It's been a good day. We defeated them. We got 4,000, right? Tactically, we've succeeded. Yeah.
In this case, if I would be there, I mean, there's a difference between Chatchila and B'diavad.
Mm-hmm.
Because this sounds already like after what happened, they must have thought, Oy vey Nomi. Why would they know?
Who's
I
they?
mean, the Philistines. Why would they know?
No, you're analyzing it. You're a Philistine. You can't.
So
you're
if
in
I
it.
would be there, I would know that I just killed 4,000.
Yeah.
Why would the ark disturb me in doing what I'm doing?
Because the ark wasn't there until now. Now it's there.
So the ark does the thing. They would know. They would.
You're
know.
asking me?
I would know the Mitzrayim. I would know the Mitzrayim that in Mitzrayim they didn't have the ark.
Yeah, but they
So
had
if I would
God.
compare the situation of Mitzrayim and now, I wouldn't see the same thing.
So what do you advise your soldiers?
To continue to fight.
Okay.
Why should I go away?
Yeah.
So this is why I said, when I read this, it's right. What happened already? Then I would decide what.
So you're not taking the text
You
seriously.
already
You think,
read the
yeah.
whole text.
You think that they're just making a show. They're not really scared about what happened to Mitzrayim. It's just like they're putting on a show or something.
At the end, we understand they must have said Oy vey Nomi,
Okay.
but not at the spot.
Okay. Any other? Thank you. Any other thoughts?
Try to get the ark.
Ah, that's another option. So you're saying fight on, but try to get the ark.
Yeah, this is what they're trying to do.
Aha.
You
Okay.
must have read it.
Some people know too much. Okay.
Depends if the general is believing in a God or not. If he would
Before, yeah, sorry,
believe,
yes.
the general believes in God. If he believes in God, he would be afraid. If he is not a believer, then he will continue. What does the God?
Yeah, it seems like if he represents the voice of the people as they're described here, he believes in God, not maybe his God.
The soldiers, but not the generals. The
Okay.
generals have general acts.
Yeah, I don't know if there were atheists back then. I'm not sure. I'm not an ancient, Near East expert. But it seems like they take the gods very seriously. And that there's gods maybe that are fighting with each other, and the gods of the Israelites are very strong. But before we go on and see what happens with the story, let's switch, let's jump forward a few thousand years to the Malbim, to Ukraine, and see how he reads some of this text. And he's bothered, or at least perturbed, or wonders about this, why did God smite us? That rhetorical question that never gets answered, right? Lama negafanu Hashem. Who wants to read source number 2? How does he read this question?
I'll do it.
Please.
Why did the Lord smite us? And this raised the anger of the Lord against them, as in the verse, you say, I am innocent, he is not angry with me. But I will pass judgment on you because you say, I have not sinned.
Okay, let's just explain what he's done here. Why is God angry, according to the Malbim?
It's assuming that they're innocent
Yeah.
and this was done with no reason behind it.
Right. What angers God, according to the Malbim, is that they assume that they're innocent. I think that this is very close to what we call today, in modern discourse, gaslighting. They're trying to gaslight God into thinking that they're innocent, although he knows the truth, right? They're trying to say, why are we suffering now? We didn't do anything bad. And he quotes, the proof text is from Jeremiah, from Yirmiyahu, saying, right, that God punishes the people for saying, I have not sinned. When the people say, I have not sinned, that makes God even more angry. He's not just angry about the sin, he's angry about them saying that they didn't sin. Right? Okay. Okay. Let's keep going. They were like...
They are like a terminally ill patient who does not feel pain at all, thinking that they are righteous. They did not think to improve their deeds and seek salvation from God, but only said, let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh. thinking that God will necessarily save his treasured ark from the Philistines, and through it they too will be saved. But this is a false thought, since the ark is not an end in itself, only a means for them to preserve what is written in it.
Okay, yeah, I've highlighted some of the last sentence there. What was the misconception, according to the Malbim? Where did they get it wrong?
They think God has to save the ark.
Yeah.
They didn't ask themselves, why didn't God help us in the first case? Without the ark, why didn't God help us, save us from the Philistines?
Right, so they tried to make a shortcut, right, to jump right to the solution and bring the ark. But going to what you said, what is their opinion of themselves, according to the Malbim? What do the Israelites think of themselves? Do they think highly of themselves, or do they think low of themselves?
No, highly. You said we didn't do anything wrong.
You said they think highly, but then there's like a switch here. What do you think?
I don't think so, because they think God will save the ark, not them.
Exactly. That's a point that I missed at the beginning. And when I read it more carefully, you got it immediately, right? It took me a little time. They're trying to force God's hand into saving them by saving his ark. They're saying God will certainly save the ark, and by the way, he'll save us also because we have the ark. So according to the Malbim, they actually have very low self-esteem at this point. They're thinking we're kind of useless or worthless, but the ark is very valuable. So God will certainly want to save the ark, and with it, he'll save us as well.
I don't think they have it's just neutral. Their own morality doesn't come in. It's a mechanical thing.
It's a mechanical thing.
Yeah,
but
the
look what
ark
he says.
the Malbim says they think the ark has power, but the ark is only here to keep the testimony.
But look what he says. I'm going to read the
like
Hebrew.
They're not paying attention to what's the intrinsic value.
And through him saving the ark, through that, they will also be saved. So it seems like they're not worthy of being saved for themselves. They're only worthy of being saved if the ark is there. They're not even worthy of being saved. The ark is worthy of being saved. They're just... It's an interesting insight because I'm not sure that's the pshat, but that's how Malbim reads their psychology.
And God is not capable of saving the ark without them?
Of course he's capable, he just doesn't want to because they're not worth it.
If they are not worthwhile living and they die like flies, he would do that even if they have the ark inside.
That's maybe that's their false thought, that they think that the ark is very valuable to God because it's his words, right? They're not worth that much. Yeah.
I think I'm more with Mark. I also don't think they have a low esteem. I think they just don't care and they want a solution for the war. But there's something different here. Malvi says, or in the Pshat, they think that God and the ark is one thing.
Yeah.
And Malvin doesn't think so. He says the Torah is in the ark,
right,
not God. And
yeah. So he thinks that's their false thought, that they think that the ark in itself...
They miss the point.
Yeah, is the end, and it's only a means to an end, right? It's only a tool to an end. So he already gives us that bottom line. But he kind of, I think what he really says is striking, because I think there's something deep in him saying that the leaders feel so insecure about their own worth or their own spiritual abilities that they have to bring this technical or whatever object, right? Which is maybe not an object in their minds. Maybe it's God itself into the camp to save them. I think that's a very deep kind of insight into the psychology.
I don't think. You're probably right.
Every interpretation is legitimate.
I feel more like they think that there's a disconnect between morality and what happens in the battlefield. Mm-hmm. It's not that they feel higher or lower. They don't see the relevance.
It's technical, you're saying.
Yeah,
It's very
but
technical.
That is more important.
Yeah.
But how is this working? It says Vayetze. They
Right.
attacked. So why would they attack?
Wait, where does it say Vayetze? Let's just...
The fifth word.
Vayetze likach.
So they attacked them.
Yeah, they attacked the Plishtim, that's right.
Okay, so they attacked the Plishtim, but they didn't bring the ark. Now they lost, I guess, a significant amount of the force. So they have bad feelings, they bring the ark and win.
Yeah.
But why didn't they bring it in the first place? Like, they attacked. It's not that they got attacked. Was it? No. I mean, they understand the Malbim why he says actually they made a mistake with this. And now they maybe are too...
But you're saying or maybe you're saying is it a technical mistake or is it a...
It's like Russia who thought that in a few days they will conquer Ukraine totally.
Yeah.
And the Israelites
Right,
thought
so
as well.
the question here is, does the author of this text want us to think that these are tactical mistakes, and if they had a better general, they would have done better? Or are they trying to teach us a moral lesson about how we go to battle and leadership and things like that? Now, I think that's the answer, and we'll see, I think both in the Pshat, but also through the Malbim and other commentators, that's kind of the direction they're pulling us. But I think it's already in the Pshat. I don't think we need commentators for that. So let's keep going. This technical point is very important. Thinking they're going through the technical moves. That'll be very important. Actually, you know what? Why don't you read the next source? I think that's number 3.
Me?
Yeah. You're the one who said technical, so now we're going to help
No,
you.
it's just that my eyes are...
Okay, sorry. If anyone else, if you prefer not to, that's also okay. Yeah, that's fine. Does anyone want to read source number 3?
Okay,
Yes.
And when the ark came to the camp, they cheered for victory because they thought that just as he defeated the enemies when they entered the land and besieged Jericho, so too they would win now. And this too was a sin, as noted by Rabbi Yitzchak Abravanel, since in the war of Jericho, God commanded them not to make noise or raise their voices until the wall falls, which is the moment of victory. But they should not rejoice any sooner, only raise their eyes to the Lord to seek his salvation from their enemies. But they did not do so.
Good. So this again is the Malbim, right? Commenting on them making the noise. What's their mistake here, according to the Malbim?
They made their noise too early.
It was good they made noise, but it was too soon.
Yeah.
Right? They should have waited until what?
Until victory.
Until they win, right?
Yeah.
But they had this kind of historic memory from Jericho. And in Jericho, they remembered in their history books that there was this noise making. Right? God tells them to make noise at some point. So they make noise. That goes to the technical, right? They had this memory, okay, there was noise involved in the victory, so let's make noise, and then the walls will fall. But Malbim is saying, no, they got it wrong, because what was the point of the noise?
To make the walls.
No.
To make the wall fall.
No, the noise didn't make the walls fall, according to Malbim.
The trumpets.
Nor the trumpets.
We learned all our lives that the noise made the walls fall.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden,
I know. Now, it's not me saying it, it's Malbim saying they got it wrong. We got it wrong.
He got it wrong anyway because they cheered. They didn't intend for the cheering to be. They cheered because the ark was there. They were supported in their faith, in their ability to prevail against the Philistines.
So he says they cheered too soon. Right?
Here it says in Yericho they had.
In Yericho he says that they were told to cheer only after the walls fall.
In Yericho they didn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
And here they thought this was out of joy. It wasn't like a war strategy that they have to shout. When they saw the ark, they said, now we're going to win. Hello?
So he's saying their joy was misplaced,
They were too
right?
fast.
Their joy was too soon
Human
because there was
beings.
nothing to be joyful about yet. And we'll learn soon, tragically, that there was nothing to be joyful about at all, right? But
But I'm sorry, when you see the other ones, they, oi by logo, now God is there, so why shouldn't the Jews think the same thing?
we'll see in a second why. Because, we'll see in a few seconds when we read the psukim. But they were going through the moves, technically. Because they thought that that's what would get it. It didn't get it. It wasn't a technical thing. The joy was over God giving them salvation and winning for them. Not about just doing it because God said, make noise. It was an actual authentic reaction to the victory, right? In Yericho. And now they're just going through the moves because they have this technical memory of what happened. I'm using your word, technical, right? Okay, so let's see one more source before we see the other psukim. And this is the only time we're going to cite the Talmud, but not the regular Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, but the Yerushalmi Talmud, which was written in Eretz Yisrael, probably around the 4th century. Maybe I'll read just... I'll read the English, you can follow in the Hebrew. Source number 4. Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish says, 2 arks were traveling with Israel in the desert. One in which the Torah was deposited, and one in which the broken pieces of the tablets were deposited. The one in which the Torah was deposited was put into the tent of the meeting. That's the Mishkan, or Oel Moed, right? That is what is written, Moses and the ark of the Eternal's covenant did not move from the camp. The one in which the broken pieces of the tablets were deposited went out and returned in with them. So, basically, the first opinion in this machloket, we'll see in a second, is one rabbi, Yehuda ben Lakish, thinks that there were actually 2 arks. Not 1, 2. One had the broken tablets, one had the whole tablets. The broken ones was you could say the portable Nayad, the portable Aron, the portable one that goes out to war. But there was one that had to stay in the tent always, which is the stationary Aron. And he needs this because there's actually a pasuk that says Moshe and the ark never moved. So we kind of have a conflict between different types of psukim. The psukim there, right, say that the ark is never supposed to move from the Mishkan. But we know that the ark did move, for example, in Jericho. Yeah? So how do we solve this conflict of psukim? We say there were 2 aronot. There were just simply 2. Just like there were 2 luchot, 2 sets of tablets, there were also 2 sets of aronot. But there's another opinion in the Gemara. But the rabbis say, Chachamim, or Rabbanan, there was only one. And once it went out in the days of Eli and was taken captive. The first time it's removed from the sanctuary, from Shiloh, it gets captured. Now, I don't know how that exactly is squared with the other stories of the Aron being removed. But there's a machloket. Was there 1 Aron, or were there 2 Aronot? Two arks. Now, what is, as we say in the Gemara, what is the nafka mina between these 2 opinions? What is the practical difference between these 2 opinions? If we go with the rabbi's opinion, the majority opinion, let's say, what is the sin? Why is it taken captive? Because it was moved from the place that it wasn't supposed to be moved from. The holy object was taken out of the place that it was supposed to be, right? And if we go with the first opinion, Rabbi Yehuda ben Lakish, what might be, we need to look for another explanation for why they suffered, right? Or why the Aron gets captured, as we'll see soon.
Yeah, we didn't read yet.
We didn't read yet what will happen, but I'm kind of giving you a spoiler alert. Because we have to look for the sin somewhere else. The sin is not that they removed the holy object. We have to look for another explanation of why it gets captured. And maybe that explanation has to do with the people and not the actual act of removing. Yeah? All right, let's go back to the text. We stopped in a cliffhanger where I asked you, what would you do if you were the general? And there were different opinions. Some said fight on, and some said retreat. We had a good day. Let's retreat while we're still winning. So who wants to bring us forward with source number 5? This is very long. We might break this up into a few people. We're in source number 5 now.
Page 4.
It's page 4, yeah. Oh wait, sorry. That repeated.
Yeah, I was looking at it, it's like the same thing.
Yeah, sorry. So if you look at, it's not a long text. It's just been repeated. So we're in verse 9 in the middle of the page.
Brace yourselves.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
From 9.
From 9. Yeah, that's where we stopped. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brace yourselves and be men, O Philistines, or you will become slaves to the Hebrews as they were slaves to you. Be men and fight. The Philistines fought, Israel was routed, and they all fled to their homes. The defeat was very great. 30,000 foot soldiers of Israel fell there. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's 2 sons, Hophni and Pinchas, were slain.
Okay, let's stop here. So they decide to fight on. And here when I read these verses, I was kind of imagining, like I was thinking of these movies like Braveheart or Rob Roy with like Mel Gibson, somebody like leading these armies of like the Scots with face paint, like blue face paint or something. Fight, right? Be men and fight. Very gendered language, yeah. And they fight maybe against all expectations because they're so scared before. But the psychology here says, no, actually, they have nothing to lose in their minds, so they go and fight. And they succeed. And they not only succeed, but the defeat for the Israelites is so much more tragic, right? 40,000? Or 30,000? 30,000 more men are killed. And the ark is taken. And Hophni and Pinchas die. What a tragedy, right? What a terrible tragedy. With all the expectations with the ark that it'll save us. And then there's failure, right? And defeat. Any other thoughts or comments on this? Yeah. Okay, so let's... Was there anything else I wanted to say here? Yeah, it's kind of strange, lest we be slaves to the Israelites like they were slaves to us. That's kind of a strange insight. Like, when were the Israelites slaves to the Philistines? I don't know. I don't think in the Tanakh something like that is mentioned, but that's what they feel. Yeah.
Or you will become
Yeah,
slaves.
if you look at the Hebrew, avadim is the word they use.
If you are motivated, it doesn't matter. If he just tries to motivate his soldiers,
Try to motivate them.
Whatever he says, it's just let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
If it's true or not, who cares?
Right. Let's read again the Malbim. Yeah, it's a bit strange. We don't know when the Israelites were slaves to the Philistines, but that's what they say. Before we continue, let's read a few more comments by the Malbim. Okay?
They invent a narrative.
They invent a narrative. Yeah, maybe they invent a narrative.
Yeah, this is what everybody does now.
Yeah. Source 6. Source 6. We're going to come back to the text in a second. Brace yourselves and be men, O Philistines. As if to say, don't be animals that can never overcome the sons of gods. But be people who by the strength of their humanity can sometimes overcome gods and supernatural powers. So the Malbim is commenting on these words, Hitchazku veheyu le'anashim plishtim. And the translation into English is be men. But that's not how Malbim understands it. It's be humans, as opposed to don't be animals. Because animals just go, we use these metaphors sometimes with animals, like lambs to the slaughter, right? We use like herds. No, what gives humans agency is that they can decide to face all the odds and fight, right? And look at this, and look at the proof text that he brings. What does he say? As it is written, because you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed. Ki sarita im Elohim ve'im anashim v'tuchal. Who is that? Yaakov.
And then he calls Israel.
Right, so how did we get the name Israel? Because we fought against God. Yaakov, right, fought against a God, something divine, yeah? But who is the Malbim giving this motivational talk to? The enemies, the Philistines, are being motivated by the story of Yaakov, of the underdog, fighting against superior powers, right? And prevailing.
But the Plishtim in Tanakh depicted as exactly the opposite of Anashim, actually. So why are they bringing this be like men?
Say more about that.
No, but the Plishtim are like the arch enemies of the Israelites throughout the whole history. And they're depicted as like evil, non-human beings almost. So now they say, like just be human once, in defeat. That doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you give this prep talk to your soldiers that behave most likely like animals? Saying, that's the amazing thing, right? I mean, religions and people and nations tend to either belittle or minimize or demonize the other side to the extent that they're not human beings, right? And what this text, or at least the Malbim, is saying is, this is human behavior, is to, against all odds, to fight against superior powers. And he's giving this to, as you say, the arch enemies of the Jewish people, of the Israelites, the Jewish people. He's giving them this, I think, very humane. He's giving them a lot of credit psychologically. They're actually he's giving them so much credit that they're taking Yaakov's message of fighting against gods, against superior powers, and giving it to the enemies. That's pretty incredible for a religion to do that, right? To give so much credit to the other side, especially following such a terrible defeat, right? So much pain is involved in our side. Yeah, Ido.
Perhaps the Malbim doesn't care about the Philistines. It's just a very good speech, enthusiastic and successful speech, and he just takes his message.
Yeah.
Because and he doesn't care about the Philistines. That's why he takes it over and brings it compared to Israel.
Yeah, in what sense do you mean he doesn't care about the Philistines?
It's not meant that he gives all the credit to the Philistines. What he's saying, and also the verse that he's citing, is not to like that Philistines are the new Israel, but he just doesn't care. It's a good, enthusiastic speech, and message that he wants Israel to hear.
Yeah, but who's giving this enthusiastic speech? It's not us, it's them, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you that he doesn't care about the Philistines in the sense that this text is not meant for the Philistines to read. And Malbim isn't writing his Parshanut for the Philistines. He's writing it for us, meaning the readers of Tanakh.
He's doing bibliodrama.
He
That's
is.
what he's doing.
He is. He's reading psychologically into them, right? He's continuing the conversation that they're having in the Pshat, and he's adding on his own commentary. That's what Parshanim do. That's what Midrash does, right? Mm-hmm. And Midrash can also be the other side, can say things. The Egyptians can say things. The angels can say things. Midrash is, very creative, can do anything. But this is quite striking, right? I think, yeah.
When did the Malbim live?
In the 18th century, 1809 to 1879.
So what was going on around him?
Ukraine.
He was probably living in the Pale of Settlement, right, under the Tsar. They didn't have such a great life, I don't think, back then. If you watched Fiddler on the Roof, that's probably more or less the life he was living, chronologically, more or less. It wasn't a great, life. That's maybe even more, right? More so to speak that way, when he's living as a Jewish minority in an anti-Semitic empire like Tsarist Russia. Yeah.
Maybe the Philistines were aware of the Jewish people's lower level or limited current belief or adherence to God, and capitalising on it, saying God's on our side now, so we're the mentioned now, we're the goodies now. He's on our side. Look, we've just defeated 4,000. Let's capitalise and carry on.
Right. So you're saying maybe they have the same false belief system.
Well, it wasn't false, was it?
They managed. Right. Right. So I think what you're saying is very important, because I think what this text is trying to tell us, in terms of what the author is trying to tell us, is that when there's a kind of a leadership void in the story, the enemies can succeed much better. Or when there's like a false...
spiritual.
Right, both. I'd say both, yeah. Spiritual, and a spiritual misconception, which the Malbim is really kind of highlighting and putting in our face, but I think already the Pshat, that's what I was trying to allude to with all of these superlatives that it's giving. The Alon, the Ark, is already telling us that there's a lot of expectations that will soon be dashed. Because there's this expectation that the Ark will work magic and will magically win the war. And that expectation is dashed immediately with the terrible defeats, right? How much, just tell me when we have to, 15 minutes? Okay. We're coming to the last act of this tragedy. And just like in a Greek tragedy, it gets worse and worse and worse. Actually, I think we're only in the second act, so we have to read quickly. Who wants to read source number 7? Yeah, we only have 2 more sources, we're okay. Source number 7. Wait, we didn't finish reading, sorry. I'll quickly read the last verses in, we kind of stopped there in the middle. There's a Benjaminite that suddenly appears from the battle.
12.
Yeah.
Who is this Benjaminite? Let's see. Verse 12.
Page 4.
Page 4, verse 12. A certain Benjaminite ran from the battlefield and reached Shiloh the same day. His clothes were rent, meaning torn, and there was earth on his head. When he arrived, he found Eli sitting on a seat waiting beside the road, his heart trembling for the ark of God. The man entered the city to spread the news, and the whole city broke out in a cry. Now again, there's noise, right? There's a loud cry, but this time it's not of joy. We hear this audio kind of repetition. Who is this Benjaminite? Nobody knows, but some of the Parshanim say it's Shaul. It's the king that is not yet king, but in a few chapters we'll discover this person, Shaul, the first king of Israel, right? Because he's from the tribe of Benjamin, from Shevet Binyamin. Yeah? Now, some of us rabbis sometimes have to give bad news. And there's always a question, I guess, in psychology, do you start with like the worst part, or do you start with the less worse and go worse? I want to ask you, what tactic do you think this Benjaminite is using with Eli, who's waiting at the gate? In other words, what is the thing Eli fears most, or what is the bad news Eli is waiting for to hear most? Yeah. It says explicitly that he's waiting to hear what was happening with the ark.
Yeah, because he can't imagine that his sons will be.
He can't imagine that?
Maybe he can,
Definitely.
Well, we know that that what he's waiting for is news of the ark, right? And let's see now how the Benjaminite delivers the news.
I'm the one who came.
And when Eli heard the sound of the outcry, in verse 14, and asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" the man rushed over to tell Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old. His eyes were fixed in a blind stare. The man said to Eli, "I am the one who came from the battlefield. I have just fled from the battlefield." Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The bearer of the news replied, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the troops also suffered a great slaughter. Your 2 sons, Hophni and Pinchas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." So he goes, there's three pieces of news here, right? There's the general loss, the people, right?
Mhm.
Then there's the more specific, the family, the sons, and finally there's the ark. So he gets to the ark last, right, when he describes what's happening. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off the seat beside the gate, broke his neck and died. For the man was old and heavy. He had been the chieftain of Israel for 40 years. So, what's the bottom line? What does Eli care?
The ark.
Seems like he's most concerned with the ark, right? Because when he falls back, it's when he hears about the ark.
Because he was the guardian of it.
He was the guardian of the ark. That was his job.
He
Right?
should have prevented the ark to be taken to the battlefield.
If we take the side of Chachamim, that there's only one ark and it should have stayed in the holy sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he kind of has this sense of responsibility. Maybe he betrayed his mission as the guardian of the ark. But it's clear.
But Eli did not know about the machloket of
Right.
1,000 years later.
Right. But it's clear that he feels very attached to the ark, right? And that's the psukim say this a few times. Okay. So now. So this tragedy is unfolding. Now after the loss in the battle, Eli now is also dead. And now there'll be sort of a transition of leadership. Basically, one generation is finishing. And Shmuel needs to take his place soon as the new leader. But before that happens, the tragedy will unfold a little bit more. Because this is really like a Greek tragedy. It'll be till the end. The lemon will be squeezed. The tragedy will be squeezed until the very end. Does somebody want to read source number 7? We're coming kind of towards the end of the source sheets. We can talk about it a little bit. Yeah, bevakasha.
His daughter-in-law, the wife of Pinchas, was pregnant, about to give birth. When she heard the report that the ark of God was captured and that her father-in-law and husband were dead, she was seized with labour pains and she crouched down and gave birth. As she lay dying, the women attending her said, Do not be afraid, for you have borne a son. But she did not respond or pay heed. She named the boy Ichabod, meaning the glory has departed from Israel, referring to the capture of the ark of God and to the death of her father-in-law and her husband. The glory is gone from Israel, she said, for the ark of God has been captured.
And that's how the chapter ends. That's the end of the chapter. It ends with the death of the wife of Pinchas, just before she names the baby Ichavod, which in Hebrew means dishonor.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't want to be that child walking around with that name for the rest of my life. But it bears the sentiment, right, that they had in that moment, that something has been broken, right, in the kavod of the people. What does she care most about? Does she care most about the same thing as Eli, or does she have different priorities if we kind of take the same attitude? Because she also mentions different elements. What do you think?
She also is worried about the ark.
Yeah. Where do we see this?
Because she said that kavod miYisrael ki nilkach ha'on ha'elohim.
Right, and that's the end of the chapter. The bottom line is why do we have no kavod? Because the ark was taken. So our kavod, our dignity, our honor as a people were taken sort of away with the ark in exile. Gala kavod miYisrael. It was exiled away. But
there's also levels here. Like, it's not only the ark, it's also her husband,
yeah,
her father.
right. So here the order.
Father-in-law and then the husband.
Yeah, father-in-law and then the husband. So maybe if we go according to the same order, if we're kind of doing it the same way that we kind of judged Eli with, then maybe actually the husband and then the father-in-law, or the husband is most important. It's a bit ambiguous, but the last verse seems to say that she attributes the kavod to the existence of the ark. When the ark is away, the kavod is away, is in exile. Okay. before we summarize and kind of share thoughts here about this tragedy, let's read one last Malbim, our companion in this chapter. And here Malbim will speak as a rabbi, finally, as a true representative of the rabbinic caste that he belongs to. Who wants to read source number 8? It's your last chance to read, because it's the last source.
I'll do it.
Okay.
And she called the boy Ichavod, which is to say, where is the honor? There is no more honor for Israel. And she explained her words by saying that the glory has departed from Israel due to the capture. She meant that there were 2 Torahs, the written Torah residing in the ark, and an oral Torah that resides in the hearts of the wise men of Israel who received it from Moshe, the faithful shepherd. If one is missing, the other can make up for it. In other words, if the ark had been taken alone, and Eli and his sons were alive, it would have been possible to retrieve the Torah through them. As Rabbi Meir said, if the Torah were ever forgotten by Israel, we could recreate it through pilpul, Talmudic reasoning. But now, the honor is definitely gone since both the ark was captured and her father-in-law and husband were dead.
Wow.
I think what he's doing, he's kind of in a kind of very sophisticated way referring to the same machloket in the Yerushalmi about whether there's one Torah or 2 Torot, 2 separate arcs, right? But the Torot he's talking about are not 2 written Torot. They're not 2 tablets that are in the ark. There are 2 Torot that are now gone, but one is an oral Torah and one is a written Torah. And the tragedy that he's talking about is that not only the physical Torah is gone, because the Aron is taken captive, right, and taken into the Philistine territory, but there's a compounded tragedy, which is the loss of life. And here he quotes an amazing quote by Rabbi Meir in the Gemara. Rabbi Meir says that if the Torah were lost, the physical Torah was deleted from existence, we, the rabbis, would be able to recreate it through pilpul. We're such geniuses, says Rabbi Meir, we the rabbis, or the studiers of Torah, that we would be able to recreate the erased Torah, because we're so great as rabbis. We have such capabilities of pilpul, of learning. But now that the representatives of the pilpul, the learners, are dead, meaning Hofni and Pinchas, right, the guardians, there is no one to recreate the Torah. That's the real loss, says the Malbim. That it's not just the physical relic, it's the people who could have taught it, reinvented it, reintroduced it, right? And that's the Galak Kavod Mi'Yisrael, right? That is the tragedy of the departure, that both are lost.
Also, the Ichavod, the son, who's going to teach him, and how is he going to impart it to the next generation?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Just remind me the Otniel, when Knaz, he was able to found again some of the halachot that Yeshua had forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are midrashim, right, about these people. Yeah.
But do you think really Hofni and Pinchas here means that they were the transmitter to
They should have been.
Well, that's how she's thinking of them, this woman, right, the wife. Because when she says Gala Kavod, she's thinking about the humans that are lost. Now, the amazing thing in the text, I'll just say this before I gather sort of final thoughts. The amazing thing is that in this chapter, the Aron doesn't do any magic. It's completely useless in creating the effect that the people wanted it to have. But the moment it leaves our camp and goes into the Philistine camp, it starts working like this magical amulet that causes a plague in the other side. Tchorim or Ophalim, there's this infestation of animals, and every time they touch the ark, people die, and when it's returned, it's sort of like radioactive and it has all of these effects on people, that it kills people. But when it needs to do its part in protecting us, it's completely useless in this chapter. Right? That's the pshat, that's the actual text, which I think also kind of tells us something. Once it's gone suddenly out of our hands, then it starts working as a magical tool. Yeah? Okay, before I kind of share my kind of final thoughts, what do you think about this chapter? I kind of led you down a certain path, but like, what do you think about this chapter?
As you said before, it's extremely irrelevant.
What's irrelevant?
It's relevant.
Oh, relevant,
to
sorry,
what happened
yeah.
now in Israel. I mean, of course, you can argue here or there, but some people think that if you sit in a yeshiva and learn, by magical powers will defeat Hamas.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you can disagree with me.
One
but
interpretation.
I don't think that's the message here. I think the message is something else. It's like they were using something because they did not believe in it actually, just they needed a really belief symbol because they knew it had magic powers once. So
And
the
it
wall
stopped.
came down because
Yeah.
it was there. God said them something, well, let's just do it, it worked. Now maybe it works again. They attacked and it failed miserably, and they attacked again and it failed again.
Yeah.
So they were actually bad leaders and showed their bad leadership by even evoking the only thing that was left, which is God, and they didn't believe in it from the start. So
And what didn't they believe specifically, are you saying?
in God.
Yeah. Right. So my question really is, what is the moral of the story? In other words, what is the author of this text trying to tell us? He wasn't with the Philistines. He doesn't know what their belief system, what their psychology was. He's kind of imagining. And the Malbim is imagining. But what are they trying to tell us here?
Well, God wasn't with them. They weren't with God, basically. Shmuel's only mentioned right at the beginning, and it doesn't feature anywhere.
Yeah.
Why didn't they call him?
Yeah.
After all, he's the
Right.
the ambassador between God and them.
Right.
But there wasn't any of that, and oh yeah, we'll just rely on it because hey, it seemed to be a symbol of success in the past, so let's use it now.
Yeah, there's this repetition, kind of this mechanical, technical repetition of what worked in the past. There's a void of leadership that's very clear in the text. There's all these things, right, that come up. Trying to think back to what my thoughts were when I read this 2 weeks after the attack. And these are still thoughts that are with me, of course, and with many people, I think, in Israel, is that one of the things we felt was that there was an over-reliance on physical elements, technology, warning systems, intelligence systems. There wasn't enough reliance on the human element in warning this, right? Warning against the danger. But there was also a lack of other things, and these are kind of part of the thoughts that I had, right? We were not in a good place before this, as a society, as a country, in many other ways. And I think we're still kind of trying to figure out how this happened. It hasn't been investigated fully yet. But I think what this text is really telling people is, among other things, don't misjudge the enemy, don't underestimate the enemy.
Yeah.
The enemy acts in ways which you can't always predict through your psychology. Sometimes they'll act in a way that is different than you expected. So there's all these different elements that come in, I think, as we read this chapter that I'm still kind of thinking through. And that's why I'm teaching Shmuel again this year, actually, to my students in Hartman. These are different students, 18-year-old high school graduates, like newly graduated 18-year-olds from Israel and the US. Because the book tells us so much about leadership, about decision-making, about miscalculations, about what's good leadership, what's bad leadership. And the Tanakh is still a very good guide for that, I think. And if you read the stories closely and carefully, you could come up with a lot of insights, I think. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you again.